For those that aren't in the know with fighting games, Tekken 8 came out on January 26 to critical acclaim, with most people saying it's the best in the series besides Tekken 3. Now everybody knows that DelusionSydePhil decided to play this game because he has to. It's a hot new release and it's a fighting game. But over the past few weeks, he's been complaining about not getting enough support, and that it's always the responsibility of his audience to come give him support and attention, so that way he doesn't have to drop it. But Lord knowing he's gonna drop it here in a moment. But before we go on to this toxicity known as his quote-unquote podcast, there is something that I'd like to address, something very important that people keep bringing to my attention. It was about the whole Hydra thing where I thought it was 6 and people kept saying it's 4. I'm sorry, I mathematically challenged. What do you want from me?
Back in the day, I was more well known for fighting games, correct?
Yeah, you were well known for fighting games, but a lot of people knew you in the FGC for being that douchebag that nobody wanted to hang around with. So, yeah, you were prominent when it came to fighting games, but not for the right reasons.
I kind of gave that up. Around the era when Street Fighter V came out, I gave it up. I said, Street Fighter V sucks so bad. I didn't want to keep playing it. And without Street Fighter V being in the mix as the major fighting game that I was playing, instead, I was going to do more variety of other games, which I did. If you take a look at the last 10 years or so, I adopted a ton more style of games that normally I wasn't even playing. I mean, games like the Persona series, the Yakuza series, and things that became staples of my content that hadn't been previously. They kind of moved in and took over for my fighting game coverage.
But problem with this though, Phil, is that you played other games besides Persona and Yakuza. You played all these games that you just buy on a whim and just rush through it because someone was paying your way, aka Machinima. But now you're just gonna go around saying that, oh, I played games like Persona and Yakuza and they became a staple for who you are. But Phil, there's no game that's a staple for who you are. Instead, you want to play make-believe and pretend that all of the games that you play are a staple to you, when in reality, they're not. Even the fighting games that you love and cherish so much are not a staple of who you are. The toxicity of who you are has become a staple to the DSP name.
Now, I'm not to say that I didn't cover fighting games. I did. When a new fighting game came out, I would play it. If it had a story mode, I would play it. Any offline modes, I would play them.
And you would hate it every single fucking time that you played them?
I would learn a few characters, go online, and then essentially I would drop the game within a couple of weeks of it releasing.
You would drop the game because it wasn't making you enough money, that it wasn't giving you enough, viewer retention. That's the only reason why you dropped it, Phil. And that's kind of the reason that you still do it now. Any game that doesn't give you support or give you a lot of viewers, you drop it like a fucking rock.
And this pretty much went for every fighting game, whether it was a Mortal Kombat or an Injustice or a Tekken or another kind of a spin-off fighter. Whatever fighters I played, that was it for me.
Yeah, that was it for you. And every single time that you get your ass kicked, you would constantly make up excuses to why the game sucks. I'm just reminded of the amazing salt that you've gave to the world for every fighting game that you played. The honorable fucking player bit, the skeletons bit, all of it was great salt. But the problem is that nowadays we don't really have that anymore. I know I'm going on a little bit of a side tangent with it, but we just don't get great classics like that anymore. I mean, granted, we got it with Street Fighter, but not much after that.
When Street Fighter 6 came out, that's when things changed. Because with Street Fighter 6, it looked so good. And I was like, man, I really feels like this is an invigoration or reinvigoration of the fighting game community for me.
But whenever the trailer for it came out, you thought it was going to be Final Fight, and then you saw it was Street Fighter. You're like, wait, this is Street Fighter? It's like, well, no doy, Sherlock. It's fucking Street Fighter. But every single chance that you played Street Fighter, it was just a way for you to brag about how you were part of the FGC, and that's how everybody knew who you were, was because of Street Fighter. Even though, granted, people knew who you were way before that.
Because they put so much effort into the game. It plays how you would want a competitive fighter to play.
And that didn't last very long. Every single time that he would play the game online, he would complain about Capcom and then the Tekken brothers for some fucking reason.
It has the best online netcode of any fighter I've ever seen.
But yet, it's rollback netcode, and it's Tony Cannon and the Cannon brothers, and you hated it.
It has a ton of features, both online and offline, which is great.
But yet you never finished World Tour mode, and you would bitch and complain that the online sucks.
So all this stuff to me is saying this is the time to get back in the fighting game. So I did. Last year, I committed myself to Street Fighter 6 the entire summer and early into the fall. It actually wasn't even until like, what, October when I laid up and stopped playing it regularly.
Because you saw that it wasn't giving you a lot of fucking money, and it wasn't getting you a lot of viewership, and you kept bitching and complaining all the way through.
Because there were so many other releases out. And I did well, you know, as much as morons on the internet would like to pretend, because they always pretend and try to say anything that I do of any kind of achievement doesn't exist.
Because the way that you kind of perceive your achievements, Phil, you put it like it's a top fucking thing. Getting married, owning your own home. Those are considered main accomplishments of people's lives. But the problem is that you took getting master with Blanca and you made that into a big celebration, but nobody cares. Nobody cared that you got master with Blanca, and later on you did it with E Honda, Lily, and fucking Dulcium. But yet other people in the FGC, aka Justin Wong, mastered all the other characters, including random. So your little accomplishment can easily be outdone by someone else.
I got good at Street Fighter 6.
The only way you got good was just spamming the moves over and over and over again.
I took multiple characters to the master level with winning records.
Again, Phil, who cares about it? This is just a fucking video game. It's not like you're going out and actually running for president or whatever.
Like other people who were picking Ken and grinding it out and only winning a third or a fourth of the time, but still got to master. Every character I played with in Street Fighter 6 had a big winning record where I won way more than I ever lost.
One more than you lost by spamming.
And I got them to master relatively quickly.
By spamming. And I'm going to keep bringing that point up.
That was a big accomplishment for me to get back into a competitive level. I would like to think that if I took those characters to a tournament, I would at least do decent. I certainly wouldn't win any tournaments, but I think that I probably would have beaten a few opponents at a tournament and stuff, and that's way better than I would say I ever would have done previous in the last 10 to 15 years, because I just didn't give a crap.
No, if you took these characters to a tournament, your ass would be completely annihilated by all the other FGC players. I mean, for God's sakes, Bill, you can keep deluding yourself into believing that every single time you play a game, doesn't matter if it's Street Fighter or not, that you think that you're better than everyone else, and when that ego gets checked, that ego is going to be smeared across the fucking floor, and everyone else is going to step on it and just point and laugh.
You know, I really felt like I had fallen out of love with fighting games because Street Fighter V was so shitty.
No, Phil. You've fallen out of love of video games all throughout, because once money became a main factor to why you quote-unquote love video games, then immediately the passion for a game has just gone off the deep end. It's gotten to the point where there's no passion when it comes to it. You just want to play a video game for a paycheck. Every single time. Now just take a drink of your fucking cherry juice, your cherry water, glub glub crunchy.
Now, in regards to Tekken 8, the other way I can approach it outside of getting good like I did in Street Fighter 6 is to just casually play it.
Which you have been doing it, but you're still getting your ass kicked. And that you're coming to your audience saying, give me money, so that y'all love Tekken, give me money. That whole spiel making you look desperate.
And the truth be told, if you go back in time and you look at my original fighting game coverage that I did on my original DelusionSydePhil channel, and even the coverage that I did on the DSP Street Fighter channel for about a year, it was more casualized coverage.
Sorry, Phil. I thought DSP Street Fighter doesn't exist anymore due to the fact that someone came in and put up football and that you couldn't see that channel anymore. And nobody wants to go back to DelusionSydePhil. Instead, you want to bring it all over to DSP Gaming or DSP Throwback, I mean, for God's sakes, Phil, why is it you're going to tell people to go to those channels when in reality, nobody cares?
I absolutely did not focus in on only a couple characters and get good and try to play at a high level. That never happened.
But yet you would still try to play with a competitive mindset, and every single time that you lose, you just shit talk the opponent. Every single time. That they weren't good, that you were better than them, and that they were cheating, they were spamming, lag switches, and all the other excuses that you could come up with. I mean, for God's sakes, no John should be no Phils at this point.
I was known as the casual guy who got popular on YouTube for fighting games, and the FGC resented me for that.
No, Phil, they didn't resent you because you became a YouTuber. They resented you because of your attitude in the FGC, how you were pretending that you were top shit. You were better than everyone else, and that you would shit talk every single else on the fucking forums. You would do that every single time. And it got to the point where Mike Watson brought in Jaha to whoop your fucking ass, but yet for some reason didn't go through with it. Instead, they gave you a second chance so that you learned your lesson after all. But in reality, you never learned your fucking lesson.
That's why when, back in the day, if you look at interviews from like 2009, 2010, and they'll ask guys like, you know, Mike Ross or something at a tournament, so what do you think of DSP? And he'd be like, DSP, I don't know who the fuck that is, and blah, blah, blah. Of course they all knew who I was. They constantly talked about me on their commentary at tournaments. They dropped my name everywhere.
Well, but then again, Phil, not everybody in the FGC knew who you were because you proclaimed that you were the best person in the FGC, but nobody knew who you really were. Granted, maybe you had a select few people that knew who you were, but not everyone else is going to know who you are. I mean, for God's sakes, Phil, stop pretending that everybody knows you when you're just really a fucking nobody.
Always in a negative light. Why? Because I didn't want to be part of their community. I'd been there, done that. I had no desire to be a competitive fighting game player.
No, Phil, it's not the fact that you didn't want to be a part of the community. It's the community didn't want you a part of it. Learn the difference.
But I was very prominent on the internet for making fighting game content, despite the fact I wasn't good. They hated that shit.
Then again, though, Phil, you thought you were better than everyone fucking else, and now you're retconning it by believing that you weren't good at the game, but people hated the fact that you were a YouTuber. I just love the fact that you're creating more fake histories every single time you retcon everything.
Here they were grinding away, trying to get popular on the internet for high-level gameplay, but I was way more prominent than they were, and you know, at that point, one of the top gamers on YouTube, and they really resented it.
Uh-huh, you were one of the top gamers on YouTube, huh? Not Nintendo Capri Sun or Chuck Conroy when they came out with Let's Plays, or many other Let's Players that soon followed, and then later on PewDiePie, which, again, all these people that became gamers or created gaming channels were more prominent and actually surpassed you in every single way, shape, or form. And you just don't like that because you're DelusionSydePhil, you're Machinima's golden child.
But again, that was because I was a casual guy. I was more focused on let's do over-the-top commentary on silly gameplay and have a good time with it.
No. I'm immediately going to stop him right there. He wasn't doing the over-top commentary. Instead, that's just how he was. He was overly toxic towards anybody and everything. If he didn't get his way, he would immediately insult you for no fucking reason just because he could.
Rather than, oh, let's play high level and teach people how to play the game. That was never my intention.
Well, Phil, you could have gotten somewhere if you actually tried that, but the problem with that, though, Phil, is you're not a very good teacher. Instead, you're relying on everyone else to teach you, but you're not going to be the guy to teach. You're just going to be the guy that takes advantage of everyone else just to get by. So I did find his Street Fighter channel, aka his fighting game channel, and there was one part where he said that he didn't want to teach people anything. But yet, that's something I refuse to believe, because again, he thought he was top shit, so he wanted to go on and just, you know, be him. And what's this? The basics tutorial series. Oh, what exactly is that? Let's just click on part 1, shall we? Let's go. You look right here. Intro, controls, controller settings, gameplay. And like let's go to the controls. Let's see exactly what this is, shall we?
This game really works, okay? There's a couple fundamentals that you need to learn. The first thing you need to learn are your controls.
Huh, so you didn't want to teach anybody anything, he just wanted to do gameplay. I'm sorry, Phil. I thought you were trying to play this casually and not be a fucking teacher.
You know, I was doing entire sets of Dan Madness, the worst character or one of the worst characters of Street Fighter 4, and I was beating people with Dan and laughing at them and how bad they sucked because they lost to Dan online.
Uh-huh, and how many times did they actually whoop your ass while you're playing as Dan? Oh, did that kind of get scrubbed from your memory with the gen?
That's the kind of content I used to put out, and that was what was prominent, all right? But that was like 13, 14 years ago.
I just love the whole entire thing that he's talking about 13, 14 years ago, and he's holding on to this highly regarded playthrough of the Dan Madness Street Fighter 4. Like, people knew him for that. Phil, what you're talking about right now, you're a has-been, a washed-up has-been that's trying to relive the glory days and trying to bring back all your quote-unquote past accomplishments and how good they were, and that people held you to a high acclaim for it, when in reality, they really didn't.
That was a long time ago, and that kind of content today is actually looked down upon by anyone into fighting games. Meaning, if you make content in a fighting game and you have commentary where you're like berating the other person or insulting the other person or saying ridiculous things, Oh, that's not allowed anymore.
Yeah, it's not allowed because that's poor sportsmanship. And every single time that you would win with that character, you would be a sore winner. Berating the person for how much they sucked, and every time you lose, you would berate the person for cheating and belittle them, calling them a mouth-drooling idiot every single time.
That's too taboo, too harsh. You're supposed to be ultra respectful now in the FGC.
Well, then again, though, Phil, it doesn't matter if it's back then or now. You're supposed to be a good fucking sport. Give the GGs. Give the roses and tulips. Say that they did good. Say that their combos did really good here, but they can improve here. You know, help build them up, not tear them down. But every single time that you would lose, you would tear them down. Every time you would win, you would tear them down. And that's not looked highly upon. Do you not understand that, Phil? Or do you want to keep drinking the bottle and pretend that you're a big somebody when you're really a nobody?
You're supposed to praise your opponents constantly, never say a negative thing about the game, only be positive, and it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's called being a good sport about it, Phil. But you were never a good sport. Instead, you were a piss-poor example of sportsmanship.
Like, when I grew up in arcades, no lie, it was this actual, like, hazing atmosphere. As if you were in college and people were hazing you, or like in a locker room at a high school. That's really what it was like.
Well, then again, though, Phil, if they're heckling you, they're trying to get you off your game. They're trying to distract you. And if you're good at the game, you wouldn't let any of these hecklings get to you. You wouldn't let the distraction get to you. But the problem is that you kind of got in this mentality that everyone that's heckling you, or just was an asshole to you or trying to distract you, you thought that's how it was in the FGC. When in reality, it's really not. But you want to keep deluding yourself into believing that this was actually what it was really like, when in reality it never was.
In the fighting game community in its early inceptive days, before the days of Street Fighter 4, esports, sponsorships, and everyone making bank playing fighting games.
Not everybody made bank off of it, Phil, but yet here you go again, generalizing that everyone in the FGC was doing that.
So I grew up in a whole different generation that shit talk was common. No one would watch someone play a game and shit talk each other in a fighting game and then be offended at all.
Because in that case, it was a good sport. It was like joking with each other, but you're having fun with it. The way that you did it, Phil, it was not having fun with it. You were actually berating the person, saying that they sucked and that they could have been better, but they're not going to be better. You're that guy that wants to say that every single insult that you would give to somebody, you would be the guy, but I was joking, guys. I was kidding. When in reality, you weren't joking. You meant every single word.
It never happened. Everyone was used to the shit talk. You had to be in line with it. You know what I'm saying?
You had to be in line with it or else get the fuck out. That's pretty much what Phil is trying to tell you. And I love how Girl Wearing Purple is saying it best. The FGC just doesn't want you to be toxic towards other players. That's exactly it. But Phil does not understand that at all.
I go ahead and I play a fighting game, and God forbid that I make a joke or I say that someone sucks and is a button masher. It's like, oh, that was so insanely disrespectful. What the fuck are you talking about?
Because you weren't joking. You were being serious by calling them a button masher and that they were cheating. Even though they weren't, they were being more skillful than you. You hate going up against people who are competent players. It's a trend with you from past to present. Every single time. If someone beats you and they're showing skill, you immediately want to call them a button masher and a cheater and that they're only using top tier characters. I mean, I could go on with this, Phil, but you wouldn't like that because it would make your brain explode.
Like, I don't even know who the person is who I'm playing, right? I have no knowledge of who the people are on the other side of the internet playing these games. I'm not making insanely hurtful personal insults about them and their character and their real life shit. I'm just saying their gameplay sucks. Right? There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion.
It's still being a poor sport when you're going up against your opponent, Phil. You're not showing good sportsmanship. That's the point that people are trying to get with this.
Everyone's always going to say, if you lose to someone and you got sour grapes about it, you're going to say they're a scrub.
Well, you do that every single time. Doesn't matter if they're good or bad.
It's just a common thing. And the fact that in the FGC, this has become such a prominent thing now. Oh, God, you can't fucking make fun of others and stuff. It's like, what are you talking about, right?
They never said anything about making fun of somebody if it's in good jest. If you're making fun of somebody and how they play and you're being serious about it, that's what they're looking at. Do you not understand this, Phil?
Of course, for me, I'm always under the microscope. God forbid that anyone else does it, it's fine. But if DelusionSydePhil does it, he shows up on the Scrub Quotes Twitter account, and all my detractors fucking redo it and get content out of it and stuff. And it's like so stupid.
How is it stupid, Phil? Because we're pointing out every single time that you're saying that you're a good player, that you're better than everyone else, but we pull up every single time you get your ass kicked, and you're just insulting the player, becoming incredibly toxic. And the whole thing with Scrub Quotes, yeah, they're pointing it out, and they're pointing out many other people that are a part of that. Do you not understand this, Phil? That they're pointing out bad sportsmanship. But again, you just want to be like, oh, my mouth drooling idiot detractors, they're making content on me. God damn it, Phil.
Right? It's so dumb. That's not the nature of how it used to be in that community. You know what I'm saying?
Even though you can ask anyone else that was a part of that community and they could tell you a different fucking story. Now drink your cherry water and just glub glub shut up.
The thing that is about this, if I continue to play Tekken 8 casually, instead of I don't care about getting good at the game or whatever, and I play a new character every week, that's all well and good.
But yet, you're gonna care people don't show up and don't give you money. You could say that you're playing it casually and you're not being competitive with it, but you're so paranoid about you not making money off of the gameplay videos or people not watching you. That's the only thing you're worried about here.
But is that really enough? Is that enough to keep me interested? Is that enough to keep you guys interested? Because eventually we're going to get bored.
No, Phil, you're going to get bored. Everyone else would probably be like, hey, Phil, keep playing more Tekken, but you would be the one that's bored while saying everyone else is bored of it.
Oh, just playing it at a casual level and just messing around with new characters. And essentially, that's exactly what happens every time that I play a fighting game. I'll play it for like a month or two, and then I get bored and I just don't play it anymore, right?
But then again, though, Phil, didn't you play Mortal Kombat 1 for about a fucking week and you dropped it because you were bored / getting your ass kicked?
For example, with Tekken 7, I think I played 4 or 5 characters, and Lily was my best character. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm now at the point, the only way I'm going to improve is to study this game, to actually put time and effort into learning the meta. How do I parry?
You're going to keep saying that you're trying to learn Tekken 7, but yet Secret Limited made a good this is how you don't play when you play Tekken 7. I mean, shout out to the OG Secret Limited and go watch his videos on them.
How do I learn the absolute perfect timing to keep hitting people, to do giant combos and the like, to mix them up? How do I get around? I need to know all the matchup knowledge for all these characters. And I even said it to the audience. I said, I feel like I've now hit the wall where I need to now treat this more seriously to get better. But at that point, and you know, this was many years ago when Tekken 7 had just come out, people were like, nah, that's enough. I was like, okay.
No, Phil, you weren't saying that people were tired of it. It was because you were getting your ass kicked constantly, and you didn't want to go back to playing it. But yet you made up the excuse that everyone was bored with it already. Again, Secret Limited's video showed off a lot more of this.
And that's when we moved on, and I literally never played Tekken 7 again because people said that they wanted other stuff. Now,
you could say the same thing about any other game out there. Sea of Stars, some people want you to bring it back, but you're not going to bring it back because the new hot releases, or many other games that you've dropped for newer hot titles. And yet every single time with these new titles, you don't maintain viewership or support of it, and yet for some reason, you want to blame your audience or the game. It's a constant vicious cycle with you, Phil.
Different point now. You know, we're years later, and I actually got really good at Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, by scrubbing your way through.
And for an extended period of 7+ months, I feel like the content got better and better. My gameplay got better and better.
No, it really didn't, though, Phil. You got more toxic and more scrubby as soon as you kept playing the game more and more and more and more, to the point where you became overly cocky, that you were better than everyone else. And as soon as competent players came in and started whooping your ass, that's when the salt came out, and it was glorious.
And the only reason, really, that I dropped Street Fighter 6 is because the game's stagnant now. Like, really, it's hit a level where there's nothing changing in it. It plays the same. Everyone's playing the same online. It's just an endless grind. The only way I would get better at the game is to play it 5-6 hours a day like the pros do, and I'm not going to do that.
Because you got the defeatist mentality and just gave up. You didn't want to keep going and to try to improve yourself. It's always a constant with you. Plus, another reason why you were quote-unquote good at the game is because of one person. Game Tracker. Every single time that he would give you $20, $30 of fucking tips, he would link you videos of how to improve these characters you're trying to master. Every single time. But as soon as Game Tracker just up and left, That's when it became more stagnant, because you weren't getting videos about how to improve with these characters. Do you want to really keep saying that it was stagnant because the game was getting bad, or is it because you were getting bad with it and got tired of getting your ass kicked?
It makes sense to move on to another game, which is what we're doing with Tekken. But
so you jumped from one fighting game to another one, and you thought that would be a good change.
The way I see it is like, I'm kind of damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't.
Oh, you're just damned all the way through.
If I drop the game entirely, people will be upset and be like, dude, you played it for 2 weeks, why are you dropping it so early? If I play it and try to get better at it and try to reach a higher level of gameplay in it, which I very well could do, then I have to focus on 3 or 4 characters, and people are undoubtedly going to say, well, you always use the same characters, this is boring.
No, Phil, you won't drop the game because, oh my god, I'm moving on to another one. You just dropped the game because you're not getting enough money off of it and no viewership, and you just cry victim every single time.
If I try to learn every character on a casual level, I'm never going to get good at the game, and undoubtedly people are going to say, man, every time you play, you're only fighting scrubs, and you're not really getting any better, and this is boring.
Who is saying this, Phil? Name a few people in your chat that are telling you this. Or is it just the voices in your head talking to you again?
Right? The way that I can make it spicy is to have the kind of commentary that I'm known for, but people find it inflammatory. People find it insulting.
Well, then again, though, Phil, because you're being a piss-poor sport about everything, and nobody wants this commentary, but you're seeming to think that this is the commentary people want, when in reality, nobody really does.
People find it uncouth of someone trying to make content on the internet to talk shit now.
No, that just makes you look incredibly desperate, trying to maintain a audience with people when it comes to Tekken 8, and you trying to make more money out of it. It just smells of desperation.
So it's kind of like, so what do you do? Right? It's like, no matter what content I do, everyone has an excuse for why it's no good. The high-level stuff is too boring, and samey, and grindy.
No. You're saying that everyone has an excuse for it, but in reality, Phil, you're the one that's coming up with excuses to why it sucks. Phil, if you had a passion for video games like you're proclaiming that you do, you wouldn't be coming up with excuses. You would just be playing the game regardless of what other people are telling you. But the problem is that you're relying on your audience to tell you what they want to see. And that's not a good thing, though. But yet you'll lie and say that you're being an interactive streamer by interacting with your audience by asking them what they want. When in reality, that's not a good way to be an interactive streamer.
The casual playing, you never get good, and it gets repetitive and boring because you're only playing scrubs. Oh, well, if you talk shit during your commentary, that's entertaining, but also insulting and you're a horrible human.
Again, you're just the one coming up with all these excuses, Phil. Nobody else is mentioning this to you at all.
So what am I supposed to make then? You know what I mean? Like, it's funny because I've read the feedback. In the last 24 hours, a bunch of people left comments about this on my videos or reached out to me otherwise. And everyone's feedback is different. One person outright said the following. I'm not kidding. I'm paraphrasing, but this is outright what they said.
I'm paraphrasing it, meaning that I'm just making up what they fucking said.
The reason that people come and watch you play fighting games is because they want to see you get angry and toxic. They find it entertaining. That's what got you noticed for Street Fighter 4 a million years ago. That's why the FGC resented you so badly, because they couldn't get the views you were getting on the gameplay that they were putting out, and they thought, oh, our gameplay is way better than his, so why is he popular?
Yeah, no one told him this in his fucking comments. No one reached out to him and said this. He's just making this up for the top of his fucking head, because this is exactly what Phil would say every single time, that people at the FGC were jealous of Phil because he would get more popularity and more views on his videos and not them. Again, it's just Phil putting his own fucking agendas and his own quote-unquote bibble into people's mouths. Again, this paraphrasing is just a bunch of bullshit.
People didn't understand that you were funny.
Funny? No. That's very debatable, with the majority of the consensus being like, you weren't funny, bro. With just 5 of them going, it time ooses, it time funny,
They didn't like that, right? People like you when you're at your worst because it's funny to see you flip out with rage.
Not necessarily, though, Phil. There's some people that don't like it when you rage. But granted, there's a good majority of people that love the salt that comes out of it. But that is just varied by results.
So if you do that kind of stuff all the time, more people will show up and watch it. Like, yeah, but every time I do it, people complain that I'm toxic and I'm a jerk and, you know.
Again, point out the names of people that actually told this to you. And don't say people like Scrub Quotes or the detractors. Name someone in your own fucking audience that will tell you this.
Here's the thing. For me, there's got to be a balance.
Oh, great. Back to the whole thing about balances and a happy medium.
When I make content, there has to be a balance. And the balance has to be the following. I am enjoying what I'm doing.
You really aren't.
And want to keep doing it.
You really fucking don't. The only reason why you want to keep going is if people are dropping a lot of money on you.
Okay? You enjoy what I'm doing and want me to keep doing it.
Not a whole lot of people are liking what you're doing, Phil. But again, keep deluding yourself.
And of course, the other thing is people actually show up to watch the content, engage with it, and support it.
Again, Phil, if you have a passion for what you're doing and you actually love what you're doing, people watching shouldn't really fucking matter.
Those are the three factors. I like what I'm doing, you like what I'm doing, and it can be supported so I can make money and have a business out of it. Okay?
Phil, this whole entire thing is not a fucking business. You sitting there begging for money is not a business. It's just a panhandler thinking that he's working by just shaking his cup around going, give me money or else I'll give this the axe. While meanwhile, other streamers out there don't even do this shit at all, and yet they still make more money than you. And they're not even pulling up the cups.
Those are the three key factors to success here with my gameplay and business.
Which, this is not success, Phil. This is failure. And I love the fact that every single time people point this out to you, you hate it and you get resentful towards everybody for it.
Other people may be different, but that's the keys to success for me. All right?
Yeah, a very diluted sense of success.
Now, very much, there is some of the time when that's not always true. Sometimes I'll be playing a game I hate, but you guys outright love watching me play it, and
people like watching you play it, huh? I'm reminded of Scorn, how you stayed an extra hour, and you bitched and complained to your audience saying that they should have given you money because you spent extra time playing that shitty game. Everyone remembers it, Phil.
I will tough my way through it regardless, even if I don't like it. I mean, perfect example of that, Wolong Fallen bullshit last year, whatever it was called.
Wolong Fallen Dynasty was not a bad game, Phil, and that's a bad example. The only reason why you didn't like it is because, again, you didn't like it, that you thought it was a knockoff, when in reality, people really liked the game. But you kept making bullshit excuses to why the game sucked anyway, and nobody believed you.
I did not like that game. I felt that game was a bad knockoff of a bunch of others. Bad execution, bad controls, bad graphics. Everything was fucked up about it.
Even though there was nothing really wrong with the fucking game, Phil. It was a you problem.
I didn't enjoy it, but I toughed through it because you guys wanted to see it. So there you go. Now, there's other cases.
Yeah, I love the fact how he's talking about, yeah, all this shit. I'm not going to bring up any evidence of it. And there you go. And he just moves on. A bad segue into more topics.
This is where I like a game, but you guys don't like it that much. But because I'm enjoying it so much, I'll still go through with it. I call these kind of like pet projects or kind of the love letter games. Like if I'm playing Chrono Trigger, I realize that my mainstream audience doesn't love that.
But yet when you played Chrono Trigger beforehand, you kept making up bullshit excuses of how people didn't like it when you played it the first time. But yet if you go to those old videos and look at the comments, you'll see the comments saying, wow, great job, Phil. This is amazing, Phil. I wish I could have seen this ended all the way through live. Good job, Phil. Again, lying to your own audience to try to prove the point of you being a victim and that nobody likes your shit.
But I want to play it because it's a game that's near and dear to my heart from my childhood.
Even though that game was not really near and dear to your childhood, you could just, I don't know, stop lying about it.
I want to make that playthrough so those who do care about me as a person can eventually watch it and see how much it meant to me. And
No, Phil. If they cared about you like a person, they would give you money. That's what you believe as people treating you like a human being would do. In your deluded mind, of course.
Why? Right? It'll never go popular, it'll never get giant views, but at least it's cool that I got to play through out of that last year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they gave us the whole thing about you crying at the end and going, this game is so good, guys. And you kept looking at your chat, hoping that people would buy your fake tears. Oh, boo-hoo, this game makes me so sad. It's a happy ending, boo-hoo. I never have happy endings, boo-hoo.
Sometimes you can make those exceptions. Sometimes you have to make that exception.
Or if you just have a passion for what you're doing, you wouldn't give a fuck about the viewership or the audience or the support, aka money that you get out of it. You just do it because you want to do it. But again, you're deluding yourself to believing that these pet projects were something that you wanted to do, when in reality, you were wanting people to give you money for it, and you bitched and complained every single time you weren't making money off of it.
To put out content that's either meaningful to you or your audience or both, and it goes hand in hand.
Phil, there's no such thing as meaningful content to somebody. The whole thing with meaningful is completely lost here because you keep using the word in the wrong sense or a very diluted sense. So quit saying that the whole thing with Chrono Trigger or any pet projects that you're doing was meaningful to the audience when in reality it wasn't.
If you make that kind of content that's not always agreed upon on both sides, you got to balance it with stuff that people agree upon. So that way I can keep operating a successful business. Right?
Phil, this whole thing that you're talking about is not a successful business. You panhandling to your audience is not successful. Quit saying that it is.
Right?
No, it's not right. Glog glog. Delusion water tastes yummy.
So, my question is, again, what to do with Tekken? Because people seem to be all over the place with this. Some people want to see me get better at the game. They say, all right, you know what? Pick 3-4 characters, focus on them, rotate between, get better, learn balance changes to the game. There was just a balance patch last night. They rebalanced Tekken 8. They made it so that June isn't as overpowered in the corner as she used to be. They made it so that she can't do the palm strike in a combo in the corner, which is good because it was so ridiculous how much she could do to you in the corner. They made it so Devil Jin's kicks aren't as good because they used to have insane range across the screen leading to a combo from almost anywhere, and they made it so now it's not as good.
I just love the fact that he's just bringing up the patch notes while he's just, I don't know, making shit up as he goes along.
They made it so a lot of moves can be blocked and punished, which couldn't be before. Dragunov. I was saying, Dragunov seems way too strong because he's got these giant sweeping launchers that all then immediately lead to combos and are safe. So I guess they nerfed Dragunov. They made it so he can't just keep doing that you can punish a lot of those, right?
Hey, Phil, just pull up the patch notes and actually show it on the screen. That way people can read it alongside you. But again, this whole just sounds like I made it the fuck up, pulling it out of my ass again. Or out of the nose, because he just blew his fucking nose. Ugh.
I gotta learn these changes. Right, I do. This patch came out. I have to learn these changes if I want to get better at the game. I have to know now what's happened to these characters so I can take advantage of that knowledge.
Yeah, I can take advantage of the meta and get good at it. Oh, what's that? I'm still getting my ass kicked.
You know, I'm having a good time with the game. I'm liking getting better. I had a good amount of fun yesterday or 2 days ago playing with Paul. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun, and I don't understand why people don't like my videos.
Because I was like, wow, I didn't use him since launch. A week and a half later, I jump in, and I'm actually doing really good. I got combos, I'm learning strategies, I'm dominating in a lot of these matches, you know. And the way I see it, if I keep playing at a higher level, I will enjoy it to some extent. Now,
yeah, you'll enjoy to quote-unquote some extent, until you come across the competent players that whoop your ass and, oh no, the game's no longer fun.
Will I hit the wall like I did with Street Fighter 6? I might. I might get to a point where this is the meta, and in order to get better, the only way I'm going to get better is to easily either find the optimal way to play the game online, which I don't think anyone even knows in Tekken right now. Like, a lot of people bought the game on PC and immediately found out the PC version isn't better. Like, with Street Fighter 6, the PC version is better.
No, it was not, Phil. Quit deluding yourself to believing that the PC version of Street Fighter was better, even though it has been proven that the best one was the Xbox Series S and the PS5, not PC. But for Tekken for PC, who knows about it, there's still tests need to be done.
Everyone found ways to tweak it, so they have better input lag and shit. People who bought Tekken on PC are like, oh, so really it wasn't better. It's not. It's supposedly like an equal playing field right now, which is actually a good thing for the launch of a game like this.
How do you know about any of this, Phil? Did you do a lick of research? No? Talking out of your ass again? Figured.
Right now, it's a great time to play the game hardcore and get better at it, but I very well could hit the wall like I did at Street Fighter 6 and be like, well, the only way I'm going to get better now is to play this 5 hours a day.
I love the fact that he keeps saying hitting the wall. When he means hitting the wall, it's going up against people that actually know how to play the game a lot better. The skillful players. The ones that are highly competent with playing people online. But he's just going to say that, oh, no, it's the game's meta that made me hit the wall. Not due to the fact that I'm not as skilled as all these other players. Oh, no.
I'm not playing Tekken 8 5 hours a day. That's never going to happen.
No, because you got the defeatist mentality. Due to the fact that you did that with Street Fighter 6, and you're like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather play Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and compare it to me and say it's my life story.
You know, at most I'm playing it, what, twice a week? So you get to that point. Now, if I play it casually, that's cool, but understand I'm just not going to get better at it. I'll mess around and learn basic strategies with a few characters, but I'm probably never going to get to the point where I'm actually playing the game at any kind of a high level. It's just me messing around and always playing low-level people, you know, which I'm okay with, but probably it'll get boring within a few weeks and I'll drop it in a month or so.
Because you're bored with it already, though, Phil, and yet you're just trying to say that everyone else is bored with it but you.
Right? Like, that's what's destined to happen if you play a game like that.
Well, it's only destined to happen is if you keep sowing those seeds and making it happen.
We need a decision. And right now, I'm kind of like on the fence about it. I really don't know what to do. So what I think I'm going to do for Friday Night Fights this week, I want to go back to King. I haven't used him now in a bit. And I'm going to study. I'm going to look at some matchup knowledge. I'm going to look at people doing videos about, like, what I need to know what to do to punish with King. When someone does an unsafe move, how do I punish it after the fact? And does he have any good high-low mix-ups?
Yeah, he's just going to keep talking about Tekken and blah, blah, blah. Who really cares?
And just being very honest here, last month, I lost out on a ton of income because of troll activities. These memberships, which the trolls gave away for free, that should not have been given away for free like that, and I got nothing for it.
No, Phil, you did get something out of it, though. Granted, it wasn't the thousands upon thousands of dollars that you thought it was going to be. Instead, you're going to make about 100, maybe 150. But again, you want to go around just saying that the trolls did this, and that the trolls stole money from you, and la-di-da-di-da. Hashtag trolls win.
Okay? A lot of people now have free memberships, and obviously because of that, haven't paid for their membership, and I lost out on a lot of income as a result.
Hey, Phil, didn't you want people to give you memberships as a part of the community? Didn't you want to, like, keep going on and on with your little begging script to how to give you tips, give you super chats, and just to gift memberships to your community? And now all of a sudden, you got what you asked for, but you're not happy with the results, though. I mean, granted, you got, like, about a few thousand, like, members right now. And yet, right then there, you're still not happy because the money was stolen. Where?
This Saturday, if you come by the Super Bowl Bash and support the stream, that would help a lot to get me.
Yep, he just wants people to come to his shitty little Super Bowl event, which won't really have sports involved with it, and just say he wants money out of it.
Back to the level I should be at. Notably, tips would make a lot of sense because tips I get right now, and what's going to happen is this month when I get paid by YouTube, it's going to be way less than what I usually make.
I'm just going to call the fact that he's just bringing this whole thing as a way to play himself as a victim yet a fucking again. And he wants people to give him money via tips because how do you think he's going to pay for WWE champions that quick?
And that's going to hurt me when it comes to things like paying bills. So tips.
What, your tri-monthly bills that you like to pull out of your ass and you won't give examples of it? Which the whole thing when you said tri-monthly or bi-monthly bills was just really fucking stupid.
Would be great because I could use those right away this month to pay the bills and fill in the gaps for the way less income I'm going to get as a result of this malicious activity against me and the channel.
Oh, yeah, now it's malicious activity against you. Boo fucking who, Phil? Just be grateful you got the memberships, but you're never going to.
All right? So, please consider if you're someone who was going to get a membership this month and then you didn't because you got one for free, please consider contributing this coming Saturday during the event.
Yeah, please contribute and gift memberships, but it has to be American themed because I'm not going to accept it if it's Argentinian. Before we move on to the next event, known as DSP being a little fucking bitch all throughout, I would like to do some little thing I like to call the ASMR. So yeah, I got me a little bit of a gong here. So let's see how this works. Oh, god damn it!
So who should I tell to get out of the party now? Lae'zel just temporarily?
Greeting.
Wait, what? Continue? What the fuck?
I have a confession.
What was that?
I was too hasty to judge you. I thought you witless, gutless, unimpressively bland.
I think the game glitched.
No, Phil, the game did not glitch. You're in a romance scene right now, and yet I just love the fact that Phil just looks so confused at the it's just so bad to see this man going, what the fuck? What happened to my game?
And I thought you cruel, stubborn, and judgmental.
Yes, all that is true.
It's covered in blood.
I am cold as the sea of night. But you have stoked fires I didn't know I possessed. I swear.
Phil, are you that nervous when it comes to romance? I mean, for God's sakes, Jedi Survivor, 2 people kissing. Oh my God, stare at your chat. And you just look anxious right now. Like, you're on your nerves. Like, are you okay, Phil? Does romance truly make you squeamish?
You would tear the horns off one dragon for plunging into another. You've gained my respect.
Okay.
And more still, my yearning. When I come near, your odor alone is enough to make my neck sweat. And my
This is so creepy.
No, this is not creepy, Phil. This is actually romance. Granted, this is done for a medieval setting, though, but this isn't really creepy, though. If you have an attraction towards somebody, they will tell you things that at first you would be kind of confused about it. But once, like, 2 and 2 gets put together and creates 4, then all of a sudden you kind of see the signs like, oh, this person's into you. Like, Phil, do you think that this is creepy because you never had this happen to you at all? And you're just so bewildered by it?
Why are you such a prickly grouch? Let's say that. Why are you such a prickly grouch?
I just love the fact that he's immediately going for the anti-attractive ones. Like, he's going for the ones that like, yeah, I don't want you, the rejection ones. But all the time, it's not working out in his favor.
If you must know, Vlaakith requires everything of her children. I can't count how many bruises I've inflicted. Can't measure how much blood I've drawn in the undying Queen's name. I know only blood red and death black. My mind is silver, and my body steel. I am what I must be. Say what I must be. To survive every beast I face and every wound I bear.
Why is it that I never have blood on me, but she's covered in blood?
Enough.
Why is it that you're completely ignoring the romance part and you're just looking at the details of the characters? Like, fine, there's blood on her because she's a warrior, dude. Something that you're clearly not. She's more alpha than you are.
Talk. I will be plain. I want to taste you. Perhaps tonight. Perhaps later.
It's like,
But I want it all the same.
why is she so fucking
Do
weird?
you-
Phil, she has a romance towards the protagonist. This is a romance scene. When she says she wants to taste you, she wants to kiss you, or other sexual acts, which is something that you were never told throughout any dating advice, or just any dating relationship you ever fucking had. At all.
Who wrote this dialogue?
People over at Larian Studios.
Who wrote this fucking dialogue? This is written by like a fucking 15-year-old.
Wow, just wow. He automatically thinks that someone over at Larian Studios has a mind of a teenager and thinks that this is hot. Phil, they're writing it in the sense of a medieval fantasy romance, but you're still looking at this through the mind of a teenager. You're like, ew, sex is nasty, ah.
No.
Your loss, I fear.
No.
One day soon, you will wonder how my lips might have tasted, how my fingers on your skin might have felt.
No.
And
No, I'm married, stupid.
you will wish you could return.
That is the
to
problem. The
this
dialogue's
last
terrible.
moment.
Like, do you really think that's how she would have reacted? Oh well, just immediately she's like, oh well, I give up.
Phil, in some cases, they would take rejection differently. In her case, it's like, oh well, whatever, your loss. You could have wished you've had this. But, Phil, do you not know how romance truly is? Phil, what you're just doing right now is just pure fucking cringe.
The dialogue is bad. I'm sorry, like, that kind of dialogue is so bad.
The dialogue is so bad. Excuse me while I look at the numerous awards that this game fucking got.
It doesn't feel organic or real. It just feels like some fucking horny nerd wrote that scene because they wanted to have fan service for people who are also horny nerds.
Phil, do you not understand that this is like D&D, that this is also a medieval fantasy, I mean, you could do whatever you want with it. Or are you gonna say the same thing with like the Witcher series, that was done by horny teenagers, that they didn't know that it wasn't organic enough, even though this game and fucking The Witcher have a more mature sense of romance when it comes to telling people a love story? I mean, for God's sakes, Phil, you know nothing of romance.
Hey, get a better writer to write those scenes and maybe someone would be interested. I don't want to see what a horny nerd thinks of this.
Again, looking at the awards that Baldur's Gate 3 got.
Relationship. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I don't like romance. I'm married, stupid.
Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Alright. Let's have our full rest here. Someone just said I'm a nerd. Or excuse me.
Yeah, you are a nerd, but not the best kind. Now I'm looking over at what someone says. Like, Laziel always said she wanted to ride a dragon, so romance makes sense. At least someone in his chat understands.
I'm a prude. No, I'm not a prude. I'm
Oh, yes, you are acting like a prude right now.
just not a horny nerd.
Phil, you're acting like a fucking prude. You can start denying that you're not a prude, that you're just a mature adult, when in reality, you think scat jokes are mature humor, when in reality, those are all cringe.
You understand? Like, I actually get laid by my wife.
Phil, there was a time and a place for you to say that. Now is not the time.
I don't need to have horny nerd fake romance in this game.
Wow, like, Phil, what you are having with your wife is unhealthy and not natural. There are people in actual healthy relationships that can do whatever the fuck they want fictional. They can have celebrity crushes. They can have fictional romances. The waifus and the husbandos. They can have those, Phil. But you're looking at this going, all these people that have that, they're not mature, that they're fucking horny teenagers and that they're stupid. But what you have is more mature than them. Okay, Phil. I just love how this whole entire stream was just him coping and just retconning everything about his life yet again. Saying that people in the FGC actually liked him. He was a prominent YouTuber. But in all actuality, no one in the FGC really liked him at all. But he wants to delude himself into believing that he was well liked and he just didn't want anything to do with it because everyone else was toxic. The only one toxic was actually, you know, Philium. But yet he wanted to keep going on and on about how Tekken needed to be saved, people needed to give him money, and actually watch him play Tekken 8, when in reality, no one cares about it. But he wants to delude himself to believing he's really good at Tekken, when in all actuality, it's the same as Street Fighter 6. Spam, 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 scrub forever. But moving onward from all of that, though, when he played Baldur's Gate 3, when he got to a romance scene, he immediately wanted to make fun of the writing for it, saying that it wasn't organic, that it wasn't romance. Even though Phil doesn't really like romance in any game. Phil, if you really proclaim that you get laid from your wife, like, for God's sake, don't share it out to the world and then try to rub it in people's faces by saying that your building code violation is your attempt to have a love life, when in reality you have no love life. Everyone else can have a better love life and a better understanding of romance, but you'll still delude yourself to believe in what romance really is, which you just think is just ordering out DoorDash. I heard she wanted sushi yet again. Regardless of all of that, I'm moving on to the Phil prayer. Deliver us from the dents, deliver us from the pay pigs, deliver us from the pignosis. May we never become dented. May we never become a beggar like DarkSydePhil. And just for the love of fucking God, if you have a husbando, a waifu, a fictional crush, a celebrity crush, and you're in a relationship, that's normal to have. Don't let Phil tell you that you're a horny nerd because you like the romance options in Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, God's sakes, he has no idea what love really is. But thank you all for watching this video. I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a good rest of y'all's day, rest of y'all's night. Keep it really beautiful, people.